Freud's having his last session on the Moor, and we're getting inside the Hounds of Arcadian. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Adam Ball, and this is Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies.
Boom.
Groovy.
Hello and welcome back to Off Screen then, with another week of delightful movies, hopefully, to talk about with Van. I hope. I mean, I don't get to see all these before you do, so I have no idea what's going to come out of your mouth in the next hour. So we got loads to look at. Inside Out 2, we've got Arcadian, we've got Hounds, but let's start with a horror. So this is called Moor, and that's about all I know.
It's The Moor, which is, I think it's an Irish-made horror film, more of a horror drama than anything else, very suspenseful. And it's the new one from Chris Cronin, whose name I've heard bandied about in relation to horror before, but mostly for shorts, I think. So this starts... Sorry. Pulling up the IMDb page there in front of me. This stars Sophia Laporta and as well as actually the late Bernard Hill, who passed, was it about 6 weeks ago? Bernard Hill passed away now, and so this may well be one of his very final roles, one of his final handful of roles. And Sophia Laporta is the young woman who, in her youth, had a friend who was abducted and killed on the Moor. Years later, she teams up with her lost friend's father and a psychic to go back to the Moor and see if they can find out just what actually happened. I've got a clip for you. Have a listen. This is very much the tone and vibe of the whole thing here, believe me.
She can't remember.
What can't you remember?
Silent. No voices from the door.
This place just feels familiar, like I've been here before.
Can't remember her mummy and daddy.
8, 9, 7.
Where's my son?
You need to help me now, Dad.
Something out here. Something old, terrible.
All she remembers is dark.
I've got to say, the trailer looks really good. In fact, I'm getting kind of The Village vibes from it, with the way it's been shot.
Yeah, there's something of an Ari Aster quality to it. If you ever saw Hereditary, for instance, think something in line with that. It has that similar vibe at times. It's not quite as messed up and absolutely soul-curdlingly twisted as Hereditary was, obviously, but very few films are. I did really like this. David Edward Robinson plays the father, this was one of the central characters. His performance, he's one of those guys, you know the face, you don't know his name kind of thing. He's that guy, he's that guy kind of thing. But he appears in a lot of British content, like Shameless, for instance. I think he was in Shameless at one point in The Street.
Oh.
But great performance, and Sophia Laporta as well. The one that got me, and I need to confirm that I'm not hallucinating, because you know what I'm like. I'm a little bit Doctor Who centric these days. I sometimes get a little bit Doctor Who centric, and I'm convinced I saw Sophie Aldred in there. I'm convinced that Sophie Aldred was in this movie. And Sophie Aldred, I've never seen in anything except Doctor Who. She famously was Ace in the 80s. You know,
I remember Ace.
You remember
I had
Ace?
a crush on her.
Every little boy had a crush on Ace.
Yes.
But
Yes.
Yeah. But I'm convinced
she's in it.
I'm convinced she's in there. I can't find her on the IMDb listing, but I'm sort of thinking, no, I'm not hallucinating former Doctor Who companions. But at the same time, it's so weird. How would I? Yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, so it works very much as quite a pensive, suspenseful character type of a horror film. I mean, there's obviously, given the title of the film, a lot of this takes place, on the foggy moors, and the atmosphere and the production of this is incredible. Like, you really get lost in this. At the same time, it's this wide open space. At the same time as being this suffocating fog that just feels like it's getting tighter and tighter into. This is really good stuff. It's not going to set a multiplex alight on a Saturday night or anything, but I think if you're like me and you get through a lot of horror films, and because this obviously comes up with Arcadian in a bit as well, I get through a lot of horror films, so I'm a little bit more dismissive than a lot of other people, I think. Or people more willing to give it a go. This, from the jump, had me. Like, I was really immersed in this. I was really dragged along on this. It's one of those where you're like, I can't wait to see where this goes. Really loved it. I thought those performances were great, and I was a big fan, as you say, of the visuals, of the cinematography of it. It looks incredible.
It absolutely does, from what I've seen. And actually, talking of the trailer, I don't know if the trailer's moved on to another trailer or not, but there's Robson Green on my screen at the moment, and I'm pretty certain he's not in the Moor.
No, Robson Green is not in the Moor, as far as I know. But then again, neither's Sophie Aldred, according to IMDb. So,
you never know.
She turned up, by the way. I know you don't necessarily follow Doctor Who like up to the minute, but she actually did turn up and reprise the role about 2 years ago in I think it was not the final, the penultimate Jodie Whittaker one. So she did. Yeah. So she still has.
That would have been.
She still has the baseball bat and the jacket and all the.
Does she? Yeah. Oh, brilliant! That would have been great to have seen. Actually, I might have to YouTube that and actually catch up with it and see. Well, if you want to see them all, you can, because it is in cinemas from today. Okay, let's move on to our next. So the next one is called Hounds, and this is like a drama thriller, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a crime drama, like an urban crime drama. So it's a subtitled film. It's new out from Curzon this week, and it's set in Casablanca. It centres around a father and a son who effectively make a living as just opportunistic odd job criminal types. In this case, they're taking on a kidnapping. They're kidnapping someone. However, the kidnapping goes wrong. The person is killed, and they then have to dispose of the body. And the story is this father and son basically trying to make it through this night from hell as they try and dispose of a body, like try and get this body through past various parties, and deal with their own criminal entanglements along the way. This person feels screwed over. This person's coming after them. All over the course of one hellish night. It's written and directed by, I think it was Kamal Lazrak. Kamal Lazrak wrote and directed this. Now this, I thought, was good stuff. This is really tense. And it's one of those, I know how you feel about subtitled films, but this is one where, you really couldn't do this in any other language, I don't think. It needs that setting. It needs that neighborhood, that environment, that language. And it fits perfectly. This is and it's a tight and tidy one as well. So this only clocks in at something like a ridiculously lean, something like 90 odd minutes. And it's got punch, it's got grizzle, and a couple of times there's a couple of directorial choices in it that I found a little jarring, like why did you cut that? Like, why would you focus on that thing? There were a couple of little things like that, but they were little niggles on an otherwise really engaging, really solid thriller. Like, if you're looking for something unique, something like, what was the Manila one? I really enjoyed Manila Metro, I think. It's about 10 years ago. There's one called Manila Metro that I really liked. Check this out. This is a really great urban thriller, effectively. If you like something like Running Scared, the Paul Walker film Running Scared, for instance, which is a similar kind of conceit to this, imagine a sort of grimmer version of that in Casablanca, and you have Hounds. Effectively, really good movie. Recommend it.
Okay, well, if you want to check it out, Hounds, you can, because that's in cinemas from today. All right, still to come, Inside Out 2 in a moment, but next we're going to go over to Nicolas Cage's new movie, Arcadian. We'll see what Van thought. I'm not very optimistic with that laugh that you just gave him.
You're not optimistic because it's Cage, that's why.
Well, we're going to find out in just a second. Stay there. So, hello and welcome back to Off-Screen, Inside Out 2 still to come, and Freud's Last Session. But right now, we're going to look at Nicolas Cage's new movie. It's called Arcadian. I don't know much about this one, actually, so literally I know nothing. So you can take us away. So this is a
new movie from director Benjamin Brewer, who's done a few movies here and there, but done a lot of music videos as well. Did a couple of Foster the People videos and things like that. God, remember Foster the People? It's a hangover for my ex-fiancée.
Yeah! Is that something about kicks? Something kicks?
Kids with the Pumped Up Kicks.
Pumped Up Kicks.
Yeah, that was mine and Miriam's song. God, Lord, that was a while ago. Anyway,
Oh no! Destroy
The
it!
song "Imagination" is the killer. Anyway, so Ben Brewer's directed this. It stars Nicolas Cage alongside Jaden Martell, who I'm trying to think where we'd remember Jaden Martell from now. He was a young child actor for a while. Jaden Martell and Maxwell Jenkins, and they play the twin teenage sons of Nicolas Cage. When the movie opens, we literally see the end of the world. Nicolas Cage running through the apocalypse, holding his twin babies. We then jump forward in time 15, 16 years. We've got them as teenagers, and they are living in a small cabin, like a shack-style cabin in the middle of nowhere, just eking out a living. The few disparate survivors are on remote farms and things like that. And Daddy's quite strict about, these are the rules. You don't go out after curfew, things like that. One of his sons is a bit more wayward than the other. Like Jaden Martell's character is a bit more studious and a bit more dutiful to his dad. Maxwell Jenkins' character has a bit of a thing for the daughter of the family that run the nearest farm, next door. But there's a bit of a class divide there. And into this mix, of course, you still have, what brought about the end of the world, which were monsters. And so you have this survivalist element where this family still try to survive, basically keep themselves together, as the threat of just continuing to live and survive in this world mounts and mounts. It's very, to put it close to anything you'd have frame of reference for, would be A Quiet Place. Think about the first Quiet Place.
I was just thinking that. I was literally about to say to you, this reminds me of A Quiet Place.
Note, then, I'll give you a clip. This is Nicolas Cage and his boys just sitting down to dinner.
Thomas.
Yeah.
If you're late again, you can't go past the boundaries.
I was helping Mr. Rose.
I know what you were doing. Do you understand?
Yeah.
All right.
Why don't you do it?
That's not helping.
Yeah, shut up.
That's not helping either.
Hey, Tom. What's so special about the Rose Farm? You're not there?
I absolutely love these kind of movies. A Quiet Place, The Village, this kind of thriller, suspense, don't leave this area, something's out there. This is right up my street.
Obviously, we have to address the Cage of it all. That first and foremost, we have to address the Cage of it all. So this is one of the ones where he's doing good. Okay, this is good Cage. Don't worry, this is not lunatic amusing himself Cage. This is good Cage. This is literally a Nicolas Cage equivalent to A Quiet Place, but him on serious form.
Great.
Of the two boys, both great performances. By the way, incidentally, Jaden Martell. I was struggling to remember anything he's in. Do you want to have a look at this list? Because good lord, this is a list for an actor. Okay, so It. He was one of the boys in It. Obviously, he appeared in Barry. He's the alt-right Nazi grandson in Knives Out, quite famously as well. Which I can't believe I forgot that one. The alt-right troll. He was in The Book of Henry, Midnight Special, St. Vincent. How did I forget that list? Yeah.
Wow. That's a long list.
But, and to be fair, that level of experience does show in the kind of performance that he delivers here. I didn't know Maxwell Jenkins from anything offhand, but he holds his own opposite Jaden Martell. But Martell here, he's quite seasoned. There's a caliber to this. I thought this was really good. Like I say, this will go down gangbusters with the kind of crowd that like A Quiet Place. It's not as directly menacing as A Quiet Place. I think it takes its time a little bit more than A Quiet Place. A Quiet Place was structured, I think, a little bit more conventionally than this is. This plays more as a slow burn drama that mutates and evolves into something more horrifying. But like I said, Cage is, trying. That's always a good thing. That's never a bad thing when Cage is trying. Two boys work. Ben Brewer directs the hell out of this, actually. I thought, for the aesthetic we're talking about, because it's quite comparable to the Moor. We were talking about that one earlier, how you have the wide open cold spaces and suffocating fog. Here we're talking a very similar thing. I believe this might have been filmed in Ireland. I think this was filmed in Dublin or somewhere like that. It's in Ireland. But with these American actors, they have literally flown them in and done this. So they've got a very specific look. It doesn't look like your standard cheap and cheerful indie art house horror film. This has, a very distinctive visage to it. It has a very distinctive veneer that does set it apart. But like I say, if you're looking for something close to anything, Quiet Place every time. Is it as good as Quiet Place? Nah. But, Quiet Place is, fun as hell, and, got those great performances, and Emily Blunt having to give birth in the bath, and people having to go behind waterfalls to fart and things like that. It's,
The thing is, what I want to know about this is, I think the suspense in Quiet Place is the bit that really drives it, that the edge of your seat, like the coming down the stairs and the foot going on the nail situation. Does this have those kind of moments in it, or is that what is lacking?
It does have one or two sort of shock moments like that, where you're kind of like, oh. But they are more in the vein of something like, do you know in Lord of the Flies, how the kids have to embrace their savages? There's an element of that in here, whether it's about the boys embracing their more primal side at a point, and like that kind of goes for that kind of horrible suspense where it's like, wow, okay, you did that, okay. And I will say, like, that is something that you would not be able to pull off without really game performers. And luckily the two boys here, Jaden Martell and Maxwell Jenkins, they are up to it. And they do sell it really, really well. I would give this a look. I think you'd enjoy this.
100%. This is right up my street. I am on this as soon as I possibly can. I think, and I know my other half would love this as well. So I think we need to dive in and go and see it. But you can as well if you like, because Arcadian is out in cinemas from today. Right, Freud's last session still to come, and we'll see what Van thought of Inside Out 2 next. So stay where you are. Hello and welcome back then to Offscreen. Let's move swiftly on to our next movie. We're looking at an animated adventure comedy, Inside Out 2. How's that for an advert?
Just sound very advert-like. You sounded more artificial than most of the influences I ran into at the premiere. So, did you see the first one of these? Did you see Inside Out?
No, my little boy has seen it though, but I haven't.
Oh man, you've got to watch this with him. Not this one. You've got to watch Inside Out, the first Inside Out, with him, because it's such a good movie. And I guarantee you will cry. You will weep openly during the first Inside Out, because everybody does. All I need to do is say the words bing bong, and anyone who's seen Inside Out just goes, oh, bing bong. Everybody, it's involuntary. It was the first Inside Out is and was a genuinely great movie back in 2015. Jump forward 9 years, we now have the sequel, and so do you don't know the concept? I take it. Do you know what the actual concept is?
No. Like, talk to me. Full thing. I know nothing.
The movie takes place within the mind of a child named Riley. Right, so it's all set in her brain, which is like a control room. And in the control room are these characters, each of whom is a different emotion. So our main character is joy. There's also sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. And they each press the control buttons to make the girl do what she needs to do in life. So the idea is that we are all piloted by our literal emotions. And every now and again, it jumps to like the mum's head, and you see inside the mum's head and inside the dad. But it's mostly in Riley's mind. And the first movie was about, the little girl who I think was maybe 10 or 12 at the time, being, her family moving across the country and her having to deal with, losing her friends and settling into a new school and things like that. The sequel we now have takes place within a couple of years of the first movie. And at the end of the first one, spoiler alert for you, sorry, but new buttons started to appear on the control panel at the very end of the first one, because the little girl was reaching a certain age, so that emotional spectrum was going to start to widen, so new buttons and new options appeared. This movie then takes that a step further and has entirely new emotions turn up in the control room and start to basically crowd proceedings. So rather than the sort of 5 basic emotions that you had in the first movie, now you wind up with like a dozen. And they're all led by the new scene-stealing character voiced by Maya Hawke, Anxiety, who is so extra. And she brings along for the ride, new characters like embarrassment and ennui and envy, and this leads to our heroes from the first movie, our primary emotions, proving a bit too much to keep in the room for the new characters. So they kick them out. They basically shoot them in a tube out the window and send them off to become, wait for it, suppressed emotions. So They have So the suppressed emotions have to journey back across Riley's mind to take control of the control room back, whilst Riley is starting at a new high school and dealing with all of the general chaos of being a girl of that age. So have a listen to Inside Out 2. This, I believe, is the introduction of Anxiety.
Orange? Who made the console orange?
Do I look orange?
I didn't touch it.
Orange is not my color.
Not me. Hello, everybody. Oh my gosh, I am just such a huge fan of yours, and now here I am meeting you face to face. Okay, how can I help? I can take notes, get coffee, manage your calendar, walk your dog, carry your things, watch you sleep.
Wow, you have a lot of energy. Maybe you could just stay in one place?
Anything. Just call my name, and I'm here for you.
Okay, love that. And what was your name again?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can get ahead of myself. I'm Anxiety. I'm one of Riley's new emotions, and we are just super jazzed to be here. Where can I put my stuff?
What do you mean, we?
Do you know, I absolutely love the concept of this. I love the way it's done. And, you know, my son, as you know, is 5 years old, and he's learning now at school about emotions, and each emotion has a colour, and it helps them to understand their emotions. I'm wondering if this has been made to almost a bit of child psychology to help the younger children understand their emotions.
They were very big on that when the first one came out, the guys from Pixar, because I did the press junket for the first one. I got to meet Amy Poehler. It was an awesome experience. Sorry, I'm telling
wow.
But yeah, that's how much I love Amy Poehler. She gets a thumbs up emoji. We'll give her some fireworks too. There you go. That's how much we love Amy Poehler. I love when Apple build these things in and done.
Just for anyone who doesn't understand what Van is talking about here, we are on a video link, and actually when he does something on his video and puts his thumb up or something, then he gets all these like emojis that fly around him. It's actually quite brilliant.
Anyway, beside the point. But right, so but they talked a lot about involving child psychologists and things like that, and making sure that the movie worked both as a sort of educational tool for young children, but also still an entertaining movie for families all around, but that it still had that purpose. Like you said about the emotions being different colours and things, obviously that's a design choice here that carries through. Like, joy is yellow, sadness is blue, anger is red, for instance. And
that's the same colours they use at school.
Yeah, so you'll find that this stuff is quite calibrated very specifically. Of the voice cast in the first movie, obviously Amy Poehler is back, as you can hear in the clip. Lewis Black, my personal fave, Anger. He's back. They sadly have replaced Mindy Kaling and Bill Hader, which saddens me. Apparently they left over payment disputes. Like they got offered something like 2% of Amy Poehler's salary, which is absolutely ludicrous.
Could they not control anger in their head?
Yeah, exactly that. I would have let my inner Lewis Black out of that offer, I tell you. Of the new voices, though, none of them, I think, really make any of the impact that we had with the first movie. Like, there's certainly nothing on a par with, like, Richard Kind showing up as Bing Bong in the first movie. And although the movie is solid and a decent enough sequel, and it works, continues the adventure, it passes a certain benchmark for me, which is this better than Wreck-It Ralph 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet? And the answer, thankfully, is yes, because that was a real low bar for me. I was really looking forward to that sequel. It really let me down. This is better than that, I'm happy to say, but it's not even vaguely on par with the first one. Like, I was going along with this thinking, this is pretty good, but I wasn't, beside just falling out of my chair laughing hysterically like I did with the first movie. The first movie is a genuinely side-splitting, hilarious romp of a movie, and just has so many neat little cuts and things like that. The suppressed emotions thing, I think, is the best gag in the movie, I'm sad to say. And the new characters, I say, don't really make much of a splash. One of them, apparently, Ennui, right? This is how little of a splash this made, right? Ennui is voiced by Adele Exarchopoulos. Adele Exarchopoulos is, in my estimation, the most stunning human being walking planet Earth. And she has quite a distinctive voice. She's a French actress. She appeared in Blue is the Warmest Colour. And the voice casting is so unremarkable that I did not notice that. So, yeah.
Wow. I
mean, like in the clip, when you heard Anxiety, that's Maya Hawke. Did you immediately hear that voice and go, oh my God, it's Maya Hawke? Like,
No, genuinely didn't.
The only people alive who care that is Maya Hawke are Stranger Things fans, who are realistically mostly teenagers generally speaking. They tend to be older teenagers now. They're sort of at that age. And they ain't turning up for Pixar's Inside Out 2. And begs the question of why not just get actual, voice casting? Why not cast for the voice rather than you've just cast a name here, and a name that really only appeals to a very niche demographic who are not going to turn up for this. This is the why is a RoboCop remake rated PG-13 dilemma all over again. Who are you doing this for? You know what I mean?
I'm surprised that Seth Rogen or Tom Hanks weren't cast in this, because their voices are so recognisable and you could easily find what emotion they would go to.
Well, I mean, first of all, Seth Rogen is back on our screens in animated form in, I want to say, 4 weeks in the Sausage Party sequel series. The trailer dropped the other day and it looks phenomenal. I can't wait. This looks insane. I'm a big Sausage Party fan. I love that movie. Very few movies end with a celebratory orgy. I just think more movies. Yeah, honestly, how much better would Shrek be if it just ended with a celebratory orgy? You know what I mean? Like some movies. Inside Out 2.
Or Home Alone.
Inside Out 2 is a very different movie if it ends with a celebratory orgy.
Wow, I want to see that version.
I know, right? So no, I would say this is one of those that I think if your kids are fans of Inside Out, then obviously they're gonna want to see this new one anyway. And I don't think they're going to come away feeling disappointed. I think they're going to get more. Kids are going to get more of what they enjoyed. I think. I just felt they didn't elevate the material at all. It was kind of, at best, it was really more of the same. But at least Inside Out was a great movie, so at least it's still more of that. It's just not as great because you've seen it for a second go, but still a good time. I expect slightly better of Pixar, but it's another Inside Out movie, and I love Inside Out. The end.
Well, I mean, us talking about Inside Out 2 has made me want to actually watch Inside Out again. Well, I haven't watched it, but my son's watched it. But I'll watch it with him and then watch Inside Out 2, I think, because, I'm all about doing something fun that's going to educate at the same time. And that sounds like this would do that slightly with the emotions thing. So I like it. I think it's great. In cinemas from today in...
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, while we were talking about movies to educate and inform young children, I just want to take this opportunity, because I never get to talk about this film, to just pitch Mr. Peabody and Sherman, the 2014, I think, animated movie Mr. Peabody and Sherman, which I managed to get my nephew to watch, and he loved it. I think it's a great movie, and it's like animated horrible histories, but it's like animated Doctor Who with a talking dog and his adopted human son. And it's Ty Burrell from Modern Family. Phil Dunphy from Modern Family is the voice of Mr. Peabody, and it is absolutely hilarious. Put that on. It's on Disney Plus. Put that on for Albert, and he will laugh himself sensitive. There's jokes about the Trojan horse. There's a joke about the Trojan horse in there that's still one of the funniest gags I've ever encountered. But Mr. Peabody and Sherman, that's my infotainment recommendation on top of Inside Out for you.
Well, there you go. That sounds like something that AI would develop and design, if I'm honest, the way you just described it then. But, Inside Out 2 in cinemas from today. Right, one last ride to come, and that is Freud's Last Session. We'll see what Van thought of that in a minute, all right? We'll be back. Hello and welcome back to Off Screen then for one last ride. Let's look at Freud's Last Session. I really like the look of this, actually. I'm a massive Anthony Hopkins fan. I mean, who isn't?
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's good.
Well, I mean, as you say, who isn't an Anthony Hopkins fan? So, I mean, every time I think of Anthony Hopkins now, I'm forever coloured by, I forget which, I think it was Transformers The Last Night that he was in. And it's where he has that incredible line. It's like, you want to know, don't you, dude? And it's the way he says, dude, to Mark Wahlberg. And I'm just sort of thinking, I remember watching it, thinking to myself, it's 2018, whatever it was, and I'm watching Anthony Hopkins call Mark Wahlberg dude in a live action Transformers movie. Like that was a surreal moment. I forever changed my opinion of Anthony Hopkins, and I always think back on that forevermore. So this, of course, stars Anthony Hopkins as Sigmund Freud. Godfather of psychotherapy. Godfather, but one of the defining faces of psychotherapy. Directed by Matt Brown. This is loosely based on real events. Okay. Now, I have to say loosely because the story goes that shortly before his death, at the beginning of World War II, Sigmund Freud was visited in Austria by an Oxford fellow. And that they sat and they conversed and they had these meetings where they discussed the philosophy of religion and things like that. And the movie puts forward this idea that said Oxford fellow was in fact the author C.S. Lewis.
Oh.
Okay. Now, in reality, it may not have been C.S. Lewis, but for the purposes of our story, it is C.S. Lewis. And he is played for the screen by, is he Matthew Good? Matthew Good, I believe, from Watchmen. You ever see the Watchmen movie? Played Ozymandias in Watchmen. I think he's in The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch as well. And it is effectively a two-hander between Sigmund Freud and C.S. Lewis as they simply sit around Freud's office and just match wits and discuss and debate and start to look at all the issues. They look at the state of the world on the eve of war, the rise of Hitler, their own safety, Freud's relationship with his daughter, and all of these things, that start as little things. They build and they build and they build and become more discussion points for these two dueling minds. It's not quite as Frost Nixon as I'm making it sound. I've got a clip. Let this be the judge of the tone for you.
Go on.
My father was consumed with grief, unable to process it or to take ours into account. His only solution was to send us off to England for boarding school. It's perhaps my life's greatest trauma, more so than the war. It was all sea and islands now. A great continent had sunk like Atlantis.
Do you know, whenever I see Anthony Hopkins, I'm still not over him being Hannibal Lecter. Whenever I see him in a movie, I automatically think, oh, he should be locked up, he's going to kill someone. Oh, no, it's not Silence of the Lambs, it's something else.
Well, I mean, I've got a bit of a funny one for you on this. Okay, so this is based on a play, incidentally. So, play of the same name. And it's starred my friend's dad as Sigmund Freud. I'm not
Hang on, what?
kidding.
The movie or the play?
The play starred my friend's dad.
Wow.
At one point. It was an actor named Julian Bird played Freud in this. And apparently he was in it when they announced they were making the movie, so it's something of a sore point. My friend Jass's dad. And I was going to go to this, and I didn't get to it before they closed out the run. I was really looking forward to it as well. I would imagine he would be great. Obviously, Anthony Hopkins as Sigmund Freud is, you know, you're getting what you pay for there. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what you're getting there. Yeah, you know exactly the performance that Anthony Hopkins is bringing to Sigmund Freud, and he does not disappoint there. This is one of those where, obviously, even if I didn't tell you that it was, adapted from a play, you would have the trailer on mute on the screen above me right now, I'm sure, and you would very quickly ascertain this kind of looks like a stage, but it is very much that. It is a chamber piece. Having said that, it's kind of just amusing to run with. You sort of just go with it. In a way, like it's nothing too profound. You feel like you're just watching a nice little, sort of 90-minute actor's sesh. A nice little theatre piece for 90 minutes. Nothing that's going to set the world alight. It's not going to get anyone any Oscar noms or anything like that. It's just not that kind of film. It's, for lack of a better, this feels for these actors. This feels like content. Rather than a film, it feels like content. You know what I mean when I say that? Like, you know that this has been made, it's going to drop onto a streaming platform, and that's where 99% of all people are going to see it. And that's a shame, because the story is interesting. And I would say I was quite taken in by it. And I really, really regret not making it Julian Bird's stage version now. But, so shout out for Julian Bird. Justice for Julian Bird. But, the movie did come, but I'm still giving him a shout out anyway.
Well, you say you get what you pay for. I mean, I've been watching the trailer a few times while you've been chatting, and I do. This is the thing with Anthony Hopkins, is why he's such a highly paid actor, I suppose. I'm loving the mannerisms that he's given the character of Freud, even with the sort of the neck down, the shoulders up a little bit, the shuffling, walking slowly. Like, he's so good, and I'm wondering if that's actually taken from how Freud actually was.
Well, I think there's a lot of paralleling in the depiction here. The manner in which Freud is depicted throughout the film does, to an extent, reflect the actual depiction of Anthony Hopkins. In the past, like how we see Anthony Hopkins. There's an air of that about him. If you think about how, think for a second about, you said it yourself, right, at the top of this block, when we started talking about Freud's last session, you went into it with the intonation that he's Anthony Hopkins, he's one of our great thespians. That's sort of implied in every nuance of what you say. And Freud, obviously, within his field, was viewed the same way. In his lifetime, he was still viewed that way. And so there is that kind of feeling here of Matthew Good, a much younger actor, going to do this piece with Anthony Hopkins. Does feel like, the young scholar going to meet Freud. And at the same time, the manner in which Freud behaves towards the young scholar does feel like how Anthony Hopkins would behave towards, the younger actor. And there is something of that depth of character, on both sides of the screen there that I found quite interesting, quite compelling. And I think it has to do with Hopkins and Freud, being both that specific age.
Yeah.
And obviously the timing of the setting as well being when it is, which is obviously, I think it's like 39 this is set. This is right at the onset of all the events that build into World War II. And that setting adds that sort of a ticking clock tension that the characters themselves, as written, and I'm sure this is present in the stage iteration as well, wonderfully play with this sort of kind of accepted sense of foreboding. There is a sort of we could all be dead tomorrow kind of a mentality to it. There is a frivolousness to their energy in it that I really enjoyed.
I mean, to be honest, how you've described it, I can't think of anyone who would have played it better than Anthony Hopkins, really. There's not another actor that would have slotted in.
Who'd you get? I mean, Paul Giamatti. Paul Giamatti's busy. He's too in demand now. Man got his Oscar love. He's got his Oscar nom, going for him. So also he's in a new Star Trek show because there is a god. So yeah.
Well, if you want to check it out yourself, you can. Freud's Last Session is out in cinemas from today. Before we look at next week, movie of the week, I'm hoping you're going to say Inside Out 2, but I've got a feeling you're not.
I think if I'm going to pick one this week, probably Hounds, actually. I'm probably going to say Hounds, I think. Yeah.
Okay, well, there's Van's movie of the week, Hounds, which, as I mentioned earlier, is in cinemas for you to check out. Let's have a quick look at next week. What have we got then?
So next week we have, I think it's a wartime drama. It's either World War I or World War II, I forget which. It's called Before Dawn. We've got that to look forward to. There is a new shark movie, because you know how much I love this.
Oh, another one?
Yeah. This one's in English, though, not like the last one. And I've got a link for you. You can watch this, don't worry. It's called Something in the Water. And basically it looks a bit like, do you remember Open Water?
Yeah.
About 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Right, where the couple were left stranded in the water and then the sharks. Yeah.
Circling.
This is basically that with like 5 friends on like a destination wedding trip. And they're like in the water together and the sharks come in front. I'm like, yes, pour that in me. We have also got The Bike Riders next week with Austin Butler. I'm waiting to hear back on that one. Not heard a thing on that yet. It's got Austin Butler and Tom Hardy in. But most importantly, I can't wait for this one. I've got a link for you. Don't worry. You're not going to miss out on this. The new Russell Crowe movie, The Exorcism.
Yes.
I don't even know this, but this marks, is it 2 of 3 weird choices that Russell Crowe has made to just keep making movies about exorcists. He did The Pope's Exorcist. Now he's doing The Exorcism. Then he's doing something else. I don't know what's going on there.
He's put on a bit of timber for this role, though, hasn't he?
He just has generally now, Russell Crowe. I think Russell Crowe is just, he's at that age, isn't he, where he's like, screw it, I don't need to be a heartthrob anymore. It's not my demo. Do you know how freeing that must be?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I was going to say, he's got a beard with greying in it. He's got a chubby face. Yeah. I can now officially say I look like Russell Crowe.
I mean, could you imagine just getting to a stage in life where you can consciously say, do you know what? I don't need anyone to fancy me ever again. It's time to just breathe out and let it all show. That must be so liberating. Good Lord.
Order a pizza.
I'll tell you something about Russell Crowe, though. I think it was 2016. I did a junket at Claridge's for The Water Diviner, it was called. Russell Crowe directed it with Olga Kurylenko in it and himself. And I did the press junket. It's one of the only times my mum has ever been like really excited about me doing a press junket. I was on front row of the junket. And my mum was genuinely overjoyed and excited because my mum's at that age where she still thinks Russell Crowe, was the sexiest man alive. And so I'm waiting for this junket to start. Olga Kurylenko walks in the room, and she is actually breathtaking in person. Like, she's hot in movies, don't get me wrong, but in person, oh, good Lord, I need to lie down. Just after she walked past, I was like, I need to lie down, wow. And then Russell Crowe walked in. Now, when I say that she walked in, she was breathtaking. She had the most elegant, I think it was like a sort of eggshell silk dress that was all flowing. She was the pinnacle of elegance. And then, ladies and gentlemen, Russell Crowe. Russell Crowe enters the room. Russell Crowe entered the room in a polo shirt, like a teal green polo shirt, pair of dad jeans, and just like some New Balance running shoes that he'd obviously been running in. Right, and he's just there, the guts out, hair's long, he's sort of just got the cockeyed sunglasses and just chewing his gum. And he walks in the room just singing to himself, singing under his breath, just singing to himself. And we all have an image of Russell Crowe that I think is cultivated by certain incidents in the press. You know what I mean? Like a certain, like the South Park image of Russell Crowe. I promise you, that is the exact opposite of the man I met. Because Russell Crowe was just the greatest bro you've ever met in your life. He was just man spread, kicked back. How's it going? Nice to see you all. Yeah, so you like the movie? You think it was any good? Like, you didn't? Okay, cool. Tell me why. He was awesome. Genuinely awesome. So Russell Crowe can make all the crap movies he ever wants now, as far as I'm concerned, because do you know what? Just for one shining glimmer of a moment, he actually proved that some of these stars actually are not the monsters they're actually sort of depicted as being. And I have nothing but love for Russell Crowe. I should, don't get me wrong, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have taken a minute, whispered in, maybe don't do that Superman movie. But yeah,
wow, that's nice. It's really nice to hear, actually, because they always say don't meet your idols or anyone like that, but actually it's nice to know that you met him and you thought actually he's a decent guy who doesn't feel like he has to conform to the whole celebrity status that everyone else does.
I wouldn't say Russell Crowe. I wouldn't call Russell Crowe an idol. I did meet Arnie once, and he actually was a legend.
I met him once at Silverstone Grand Prix when I was doing interviews in the pits.
Silverstone Grand Prix?
Yeah. I was doing interviews.
That's such a place to be, Arnie. That's absolutely sounds like the kind of place you mean.
But I've got to tell you, I embarrassed myself because I interviewed him live on the radio, and then I only got 2 questions in, and he had to go. And my last question was, "Will you be back?"
You're only human.
I regret it to this day, but great. Well, those are all still to come when we return. That is all we've got time for this week on Offscreen. We will be back next week. Until then, I've been Adam Ball.
I've been Van Connor, and we'll be back.